Yeah, there was a teachers union board member in Chicago, and she got a lot of pushback on this because, at one point during the day she was tweeting, and she has been tweeting this for a long time, that, we can't reopen schools for in-person instruction because that's too dangerous, even though most of the science shows. And here's another data point. I gave you enough already. But in case you're not convinced, you listeners, the UNICEF, United Nations, actually put out a study showing no consistent link between reopening schools and the spread of the virus, looking at 191 different countries. But this particular example, yes, there was a person coming out saying, we can't go back to work because it's not safe. But then they were caught tweeting from a poolside in Puerto Rico. So a lot of people thought that was hypocritical, because they were saying, well, if it's safe enough to vacation in person, why isn't it safe enough to work in person? Especially when going on vacation requires you to travel, whereas working, you would just stay in your same location in Chicago.
Well, the problem is, if you reopen the schools in Chicago, she probably couldn't be poolside in Puerto Rico, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the problems. And I don't like to question people's motives. I always say this is about incentives. But, I think a lot of people would be more likely to do that if they were in her situation and had the power that she has, and that she would understand that she could still get paid while vacationing or teaching, at least teaching remotely through the laptop.
Yeah. So
it's hard to blame them, but
yeah. Well, it's like I said, it'd be a good job if you could get it. It just happens to be really bad for parents and children.
Exactly. And another ridiculous example of this over the past few months, I'm sure you've seen it, is that a lot of the school districts were saying, it's too dangerous to open for in-person instruction, so we're going to do the remote-only learning. But we are going to open the elementary schools, the same schools, for daycare services. And so the schools weren't safe enough for in-person learning, but they were safe enough for in-person childcare services, as if learning causes things to be more dangerous. It just didn't make any sense. And so I started looking more into this, and I started to figure out that what these districts were doing was opening those same places. The teachers were staying at home because they were still getting paid through the compulsory property tax system, but then they had private sector employees coming into the same elementary schools from the YMCA and other child care sectors to provide that in-person services to the child. And so that was great for the employees. The private sector was making some money off of it. The public sector was still getting paid through the tax system. But it's horrible for families, because then they were having to pay twice. They were having to pay out of pocket for these private sector employees to do the same thing that the public sector employees should have been doing all along and had been doing any other year. So it's essentially a form of extortion.
Yeah.
Families are stuck paying twice.